We're back. We're back. It's the Daily Lock In right here with your main man, Norman Locke, host of the Daily Lock In. Monday through Friday, you can come in and catch original content here on my YouTube channel. And I'm here with my guy, Jared Mueller, not Ferris Bueller. How you doing, Jared?
Man, I'm doing all right. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing better than the Browns right now. I can tell you that.
Yo, listen, if we didn't have drama, we wouldn't have a team. Oh, that's right. That was part of our drama. We didn't even have a team for 3 years, right? Like it just keeps rolling here.
So, okay, let's go through some updates that's going on. So first off, the Davion Clowney re-signed with the Browns. Why do you think he wanted to come back to the Browns?
It really was about Deshaun Watson. We have really clear reporting that he had no interest in returning to play with Baker Mayfield. Not he had cleared out everything at Cleveland. Like the minute the season ended, he was gone, man. And then Watson came back. He actually spoke really highly of Cleveland to Deshaun Watson. And so then he's like, all right, he loved his teammates besides a few. And they have really a chance for a championship. So he's made some money. He's been the top dog on his line at times. He did really enjoy being in a pure 4-3 kind of defense where you can just kind of pin his ears back and use his length. So it kind of all worked together, and he liked his time with Watson down in Houston. So it kind of all worked together. Ian Rappaport reported that he took 1 year instead of multiple years and for less money. I haven't heard a ton of reporting on who in the world was offering Jadeveon Clowney multiple years, but listen, if Rappaport saying it, he knows more than I know. I just not sure who that team was, unless it's a team like the Jets or one of those guys.
Now, when you say so, he was kind of like a unofficial recruiter for the Browns for Deshaun Watson.
Well, Watson called him and just said, "Hey, you were there for a year. You were just there. What's up in Cleveland?" And Clowney was like, "Man, the coach has got it going on. The front office is cool. Like, obviously it's cold and all that stuff, but from a football perspective, like it's on lock up there. Baker's the problem. And there's a little bit of kind of some of those divisions going on. But if you were there and he wasn't, like, it's cool like that." So Watson actually reached out to Clowney. Clowney wasn't out recruiting him, but Watson just wanted to know from someone he trusted, like, what was it like last year? And he knew he was going to get it straight from Clowney.
Now, talking to Deshaun Watson, he's been spending some time up there with voluntary OTA starting up. What's the chatter? What's the temperature around the city concerning Deshaun Watson? I know the football side of things, but how's the city taking to Deshaun Watson coming to Cleveland?
From obviously social media is such a niche, right? It's a small group of people, but you really see a real big divide of people saying there's nothing he could do that I would ever want him being on my team. I know some people who, are solid people have said, some people have quit their jobs covering the team, or their podcasts and those kind of things. And other people are like, I'm just not going to support the team because of what they have seen. So there is a pretty significant divide. I think once he's on the field, you're going to see that divide change a little bit because Watson is so unique as a quarterback on the field. But right now in Cleveland, I would say it's 70, maybe 60-40, 70-30. Majority are for him. There's a lot of people who think there's some conspiracy theory. There's a lot of people who still don't believe victims or believe women. There's just a lot of things behind the situation. So, but I would say it's, 60-40, 70-30 that are still supportive because in the end, it's a football player on a football team in a city that is starved for a football winner. And so I think it's kind of split, but not as much as maybe you would think.
Now, talking about the football side, is there any reports or any whispers about could he miss any time? Could the league suspend him or punish him for all the allegations and everything that's transpired this past year?
Yeah, it seems like there is going to be a suspension. So his lawyer and some of the victims have spoke recently. And even his lawyer twice has said, I don't think the league should, but I expect they will. So he doesn't think they can do the right thing because of the PR nightmare that would go along with it, and which I absolutely understand. Right now, the expectation is between 4 and 8 games. But this is the first time the arbitrator that's been in place for 2 years for the new CBA will actually get a case. Before this, the NFL and the NFLPA have settled other cases that could have suspensions or did have suspensions. This is the first case that this arbitrator, this independent investigator judge, is going to get the case. So if she rules there was no violation of the conduct policy, nothing can happen. Nothing. What's really interesting, though, is if she rules there was a violation and she lays down a 6-game suspension, Roger Goodell and the NFL can make whatever decision they want. They could say, nope, it's 10, nope, it's 12, nope, it's a whole season. And Watson can appeal that back to Roger Goodell. So it is a really kind of unique system. Really, the NFLPA won that if there is no violation by the arbitrator, then there's nothing can happen. And it'll be interesting if there is a violation found, the NFL still kind of holds all the power. But right now, the expectation between 4 and 8 games is kind of what is expected to happen.
Now, with those 4 and 8 games that could possibly miss, how do you think the Cleveland Browns will be able to assess that? Do you think they keep Baker Mayfield and try to win as many games until Deshaun Watson gets back on the field? Or is it kind of a Jacoby Brissett, Josh Dobbs kind of role that they're going to be game planning for those beginning of the season?
Yeah, I'm going to pretend like we're going to be logical about it. There is no chance in my mind and everything I've heard that Baker Mayfield's coming back. Nope. On the other hand, he's freaking still on the roster, right? Like it's hard to understand. We got new reporting this week that the Panthers wanted the Browns to pay 13 to 14 million of his almost $19 million. Nope. Nope. Right. Like, why am I going to give away a quarterback who could be good? Like, so they're really just holding out hope that somebody gets injured in OTAs. How many times are quarterbacks getting injured in OTAs?
That's true.
That ain't really happening. Right. So in the end, I think it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. I think they're going to hope that they got a great offensive line, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, Demetric Felton, and Ford. I can't think of his first name out of UC that they just drafted. So they've got a lot of, I want to say Puna Ford, which is the defensive lineman in Seattle. Yeah. Jerome. Yep. So they've got a lot of running backs. So I think they're going to lean heavy on the running game with Jacoby Brissett. But if they didn't get Deshaun Watson, they were going to run it back with Baker Mayfield. They just wouldn't have had Jadeveon Clowney. They might have had a player or two ask for a trade quietly because they didn't want to play with Baker Mayfield. So that's why you're probably not going to see him returning, even if Watson is suspended 4 to 8 games.
So do you think that we have went through and we have heard and seen everything that Odell Beckham has said? We have heard, you have told me what Jadeveon Clowney has said about Baker Mayfield. I'm going to ask you, is Baker Mayfield truly detrimental to the Browns organization?
From everything that I've heard, Baker Mayfield is Tim Tebow-ish in that he expects people to just rah, follow me. And he actually talked about it. Baker had like an hour podcast with some guy down in Austin. It's called the If You Know, You Know podcast, something like that. And he talked for like an hour and he said, it's really hard to motivate people who are already paid. People got money. It's hard to motivate them. And so it does, it kind of backs up what I've heard is Baker's like, I'm the leader, follow me, do what I said, do it my way. You should. And even some with Kevin Stefanski, who had his best success with in 2020, he's like, no, I don't want to do this rollout stuff. I want to be a point guard and snap me the ball like Drew Brees and I can find my way around. So it's just a lot of, he hasn't grown up from college. He hasn't grown up from having that chip on the shoulder, but everybody's going to follow me. He's not a guy that people follow after 6 months, right? Like he's a guy that's like, oh, cool. Yeah. Man, what's going on there? Like there's nothing else there besides just follow me because I'm your leader. Now,
I know we talked about the offense. The defense has always been riddled with injuries. What's the defensive makeup look like? What's up with the LSU boys, Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit?
Yeah, I mean, injuries are a huge deal for both of those guys, as well as tackling has always been an issue or a concern in all of that. So Delpit actually looked really freaking good last year coming back from his Achilles. Greedy, his confidence is really interesting. He does not feel comfortable in anything but off coverage, even though he is physically sized for playing press, right? He wants to be 10 yards off and he is in bail immediately, even at 10 yards off. It doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 3, dude's in bail. And I'm like,
play safety.
Yeah. Like, what are you, man, that you ain't Greg Williams defense and you're not playing Angel back 30 yards. Like, but he goes into bail right away. So, but when he is on, when the system and the scheme is working for that coverage, he does really, really well. The defense this year is really set up to want people to run the ball. They have Jags as defensive tackles. They signed Tavon Bryan from Jacksonville, the former first-round pick. He's going to be one of their starting defensive tackles. Like, he's not really a player I'm really excited about. So they've got a lot of guys at defensive tackle. They've got Anthony Walker and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at linebacker. They're small, right? So those guys are running all over the place. Great linebackers for what they are, but it's almost as if they're inviting kind of that power run game that New England and the Raiders last year tore them up with kind of that power running game. But they really believe with Watson, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, who hopefully will have his long-term contract here soon. They just expect, all right, you guys run the ball, we're going to pass the ball, and we can run the ball better than you. So go ahead and run the ball. We'll do either one of those better than you, and we'll just figure it out. So it's a really interesting philosophy in the AFC North, or Cincinnati's got Mixon, Najee Harris is in Pittsburgh, and then Baltimore. I mean, I feel like
running back.
Yeah, I feel like they only have running backs, Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. I don't think they have anything else really to throw the ball to. So it's a really interesting concept. It'll be interesting to see if it works out, that complementary football, if they can really do it.
Amari Cooper, man, my cowboy left. My cowboy. Well, he got released. Didn't leave by choice.
Well, no, I mean they got a 5th round for him.
Yeah. Now, how does he fit in with the Cleveland Browns, given that he may not be playing half the season or a couple games with Deshaun Watson? Do you think that him and Jacoby Brissett can make a rapport and kind of make some noise in that AFC?
You know, I think Amari can play inside and outside, so I think they're going to be able to really take advantage of that skill set. With Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz, they've got some real pretty significant speed on the outside that they can actually put Cooper in the slot. Cooper is a great wide receiver, right? Like, I would say he's probably a top 20, 25 wide receiver in the league.
At home game.
Yeah. And then, you know, I think Jacoby Brissett is a serviceable quarterback. He takes a while, right? He is not the quick release kind of guy. So I think Amari's route running will hopefully allow him to feel confident in what he's seeing in front of him, but he is a see it, throw it kind of quarterback. So I'm not sure if we're going to see a little bit more tight end kind of in the middle of the field, kind of passing. And really you see Cooper kind of unleashed when Watson comes back.
Now, since training camp is about to start, we in mini camp, is there some Cleveland Brown players that you think of veterans that will not make the roster?
You know, I think it's really interesting. We talked about running backs. I think no, I don't know what word I want to use here. Kareem Hunt is on the trade block. I think he's a really interesting player. Their offensive line is probably 10 or 11 deep in a league that has, most teams have maybe five offensive linemen they want to start. But beyond that, they're really kind of top heavy and then a bunch of rookies or young guys on rookie contracts. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of surprises unless it is, you know, a Kareem Hunt, Greedy Williams trade. At one point in time, that was a part of the Houston conversation. Houston would have probably dropped off or changed the trade enough and added Hunt and Williams. They just decided they wanted to have kind of the same trade with every team and not mix it up with players. So I know Hunt and Williams are two names that people would kind of be like, whoa, they traded them, especially after trading Troy Hill back to the Rams. Greedy is really kind of set to be that other outside cornerback with Greg Newsome the second sliding in as the slot.
Well, the Cleveland Browns drafted Martin Emerson. Do you think that that's Greedy Williams' replacement?
They think it's
Greedy on the last year of his rookie deal right now.
Yeah, so he's on his last year of a second round contract. He is definitely a possibility as a replacement there. They want to see what Emerson has. He moved around a little bit in college, so they just want to make sure. But they like his length, they like his size. Joe Woods likes a little cover three, a little man. He likes people who can be a little bit versatile. So if they see enough from Emerson, I think Williams becomes disposable at some level. But they also know, you know, last year they were running out Herb Miller, AJ Green, and MJ Stewart were their cornerbacks because Denzel Ward, you know, has an injury history. So they know you can't have enough cornerbacks. So it only has to be worth it. You know, maybe they find a defensive tackle that is on the trade block or, you know, another edge rusher to go with Clowney and Myles Garrett. But those would be I would think Emerson they like, but they don't want to rely on a rookie to really kind of man that when you got the Jamar Chases, T Higgins, you know, Claypool, Pickens and
Yeah.
right. Like, I mean, the only one you don't care about is Baltimore because you got Bateman and Mark Andrews, but in the other two, you've got, 2, 3, I mean, Tyler Boyd in Cincinnati, Deontay Johnson in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of receivers in the AFC North. And that's that's the route to the playoffs, especially in the AFC, which is ridiculously loaded.
Now, how do you feel about the totality of the draft class that the Cleveland Browns took this year?
I think they did a really interesting move to move down. They did two things. One, they allowed Houston to jump Baltimore. Baltimore would have drafted John Mechie. The Browns trade allowed Houston to draft him. And that trade allowed them to draft Cade York. And while kickers normally don't get drafted, kickers cost the Browns one or two kickers or punters costed 1, 2, or 3 games last year. And so getting Cade York, I think they wouldn't have done that if they didn't trade down and kind of get those extra picks. So, they got Emerson, they got Perion Winfrey and Cade York basically for John Mechie. Like, that's a really interesting trade to kind of conceptualize. So I really like what they did because it seems like they're building for the future. Because with Watson's, I mean, I think his cap hit next year is $48 million. Jeez. Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, they got some dudes on some contracts, Amari Cooper. So they're going to need to kind of build those kind of depth pieces. And I think Alex Wright, Perion Winfrey, all those guys are really kind of going to provide that. And then Cade York, man, can we just have a kicker? Like, we haven't had one since Phil Dawson. And you want to know most of the kicks are going in from 40 yards and in. And that hasn't happened in Cleveland again since Dawson moved on in whatever year that was.
I feel like that's my one rule for kickers. In college, if it's 30 yards or under, you should make it. And in NFL, if it's 40 yards or under, you should make it. I just feel like that's standard. That's like
like you should. That's all you do right now. I know there's a lot of variables to it. One of the cool things is York has under pressure. That man he's been a killer, right? He was so good. I mean, how many kickers come out as juniors, right? So, man, that pick has to pay off. That's the third time they've spent a 5th round or better. Zane Gonzalez, Austin Seibert, and now Cade York. So this is their third attempt at doing this. I hope third time's the charm up in here.
2 more questions before I get you out of here. What's the count on the quarterbacks now? This is the what starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in how many years?
I gave up. I mean, we thought we retired that darn jersey, with Mayfield, but I think we're at 23, 24 since returning in 1999. So more than one a year since the team has returned. Mayfield was the most consistent of all of those quarterbacks for his, 2.5, 2 and 3/4 years that was kind of the main starter.
And then this year is going to be at least 2 starters, maybe possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that jersey was cute and funny for a little while. The quarterback graveyard bull crap we have to see on TV every single time,
every year.
I'm like, can you just shut that down? Like, we get it. Like, we know, and the national audience knows. And then they're going to show the drive and the fumble and LeBron leaving, and they're going to show, the rain delay,
cover.
Just Jose Mesa and Edgar Renteria in the World Series when the Marlins won. Like, we call it the misery montage. Like, we are so used to seeing that bull crap on TV for every single nationally televised game. It's the quarterback, either the jersey or the graveyard. And then it's the misery montage with freaking John Elway, Ernest Biner, Red Right 88. I mean, listen, they're seared in here. I'm not even that old. They're seared in here.
Now, Jarvis Landry, what are the Browns going to miss? Because I've just heard raves about his tender in the Cleveland Brown with the community, being a teammate. What are some of the things that the Browns are going to miss with Jarvis Landry going to the New Orleans Saints?
In a lot of ways, Jarvis was the sheriff. Like, Jarvis, if the coaches said it, he did it. Even if the coaches were, idiots like Freddie Kitchens, if the coaches said it, he did it. And he made sure the teammates did it. And so there was a lot there that Jarvis did as a teammate, as a leader, kind of setting the tone for, we're going to fight hard. We're going to work hard, all of that. That kind of fell off a little bit last year. Him and OBJ, obviously that's his boy. Be interesting where he ends up this year. So they're going to miss a lot of that. Unfortunately, on the field, Landry was getting paid as if he was a top 10 wide receiver, and he's never been explosive. He's never been a big touchdown guy. He's a target heavy kind of wide receiver. So they don't lose a ton, from a on the field perspective outside of, listen, on third down, I always said this, Kevin Stefanski's play calling on third and fourth down when it was a pass play was very simple. 3rd and 3, Jarvis, go 3 yards, catch the ball, get tackled. We got a first down. Let's go. Every single time there is a get the first down play. And almost always it was to Jarvis Landry. Jarvis was going to run a crisp route. He was going to catch the ball and he was going to get tackled. There was nothing coming. If you're supposed to get 3 yards, he's getting you 3, 4, 5, whatever that number was, but he wasn't getting much more than that. So in the locker room, I think, the years they've had him, he's kind of done everything that he could do from a teammate and a leadership perspective. They are hoping that Watson, in his style, Cooper's a quiet guy from what we understand, but that Watson can kind of take over that leadership role, which obviously is very unique. If you think about that, some of the players may not feel real great about bringing on someone with those 22 allegations hanging over his head.
Now, final question before I let you go. Baker Mayfield. Where does he land?
Carolina. I mean, it is legit so interesting. Obviously, Carolina doesn't like him that much, or they wouldn't have. I mean, Matt Corral's not the quarterback. Sam Darnold's not the cornerback, but they also have to they traded up, or they traded to get Sam Darnold. They traded up to get Matt Corral. Do they trade again for Baker Mayfield?
It's 3 L's.
That's just ridiculous. But Matt Rule, I know David Tepper, the owner, that's his boy. He believes in him as a culture builder and all that stuff. But at what point is he actually on the hot seat? And so I think they're going to see Matt Corral and Sam Darnold in training camp and go, okay, we'll pay half of Baker's contract and we'll throw you a 4th round pick. That just has to be. I don't care what Ben Slickback McAdoo, what he's got to say about quarterbacks. Matt Rule cannot go into this season with Matt Corral and Sam Darnold. That dude can't. I mean, he's not going to make it another year. I know his contract's huge. So that's the only one that makes sense to me. And again, unless there's a freak accident, we don't wish bad health on anybody, unless there's a Teddy Bridgewater, type accident by somebody. I think Baker Mayfield is a okay, fine quarterback. And so another team, he's the best option unless you want to pay $25 million for Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. And so and probably a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, some combination of San Francisco.
Even with playing against each other week 1 of this season, you still think the Panthers are probably most likely to trade for Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I don't think the Browns care that much. Specifically Carolina, right? They're not obviously going to move him to Cincinnati or Pittsburgh if they get an injury, but you look at Carolina, they've got some pieces there, but you don't see anything about a Ben McAdoo offense or even kind of what they've done on defense that you're going to say Baker Mayfield, even if it's Jacoby Brissett or Josh Dobbs, which I doubt, you're not real worried that team as a whole is really going to cause you problems in week 1. You could be wrong. Brian Burns is an amazing, defensive end. I love Jeremy Chin, a lot of talent on that roster. I just don't see the Browns making a decision because they can roll that $9 million over. And with all of these contracts, if they can save $9 million, that gets rolled over to next year and they need that cap space. So I don't see them making a decision not to trade him just because it's week 1. Watson may not be there, all that kind of stuff, especially because it's on the road. Right. So it's not, Baker Mayfield's not coming to Cleveland in a Carolina uniform.
And I don't think the Browns fans would even care. They wouldn't even care. Jared Mueller, managing editor over at the Browns Wire. I appreciate you coming on. Come talk all things Browns with me. I guess we'll be talking Carolina Panthers, Browns week 1. Appreciate you, man. Have fun.
Absolutely.